I built this nightstand using $35 worth of lumber, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Why DIY it? When I needed to get a nightstand for my room, I quickly discovered the furniture on the market was out of my budget, made from materials that lacked durability, or the design just didn't suit my needs. So I woke up one day with an epiphany and told my dad, let's build me a nightstand. Despite knowing that us building a nightstand would mean him doing the bulk of the manual labor, he agreed. I got designing and then we headed to the store. After compiling my dimensions and the total amount of lumber needed, we discovered 2 of these edge-glued 1-foot by 4-foot boards would be a perfect option. We spent a little time looking at the 12-foot boards, but every single one was way too warped or the surface was too gouged. The price savings would have been minimal, and it would have meant more work to address the cupping issues with the wood, so we stuck with our original find. The wood cost me $34.94. Back at my dad's workshop, we got to cutting the boards, and by we, I mean my dad. Now, before anybody comes for me saying, why didn't you do the work yourself? 1, I have health issues and physically could not lift those boards. 2, my dad has more skills using his tools than I do. And 3, isn't it just nice to have help and someone to hang out with when you're working on a project? So shout out to my dad for being my manual labor. Dad, give us a good zhuzh. I started by choosing which sections of the wood I wanted facing outward on the nightstand, and then we started making our cuts. We began by cutting 2 boards at 22.5 inches long to be the sides, and then the middle shelf cut at 13.5 inches. Then we drilled pocket holes into either end of the shelf. I find pocket holes rather whimsical for some reason. With the first 3 boards cut, we did a dry fit to see how long to cut the top and bottom boards. We figured it would be easier to match the top and bottom to the width created by the shelf than vice versa. After the second dry fitting with all 5 boards, we shaved a hair more off the top board to make everything flush. Then it was time to put it all together. I played around with the positioning of the middle shelf. Then my dad drilled the shelf into place since I am notoriously bad at stripping screws with a screwdriver.
Quit complaining, jeez.
To attach the top and bottom, I did what turned out to be a somewhat sloppy glue job. I realized after gluing that I didn't have anything available to clean up excess glue and had to make do with what was lying around the workshop. I also shot some brad nails into the edge for extra security. I covered them up with a little putty for a smooth surface.
Like that! Now I can sort this stuff a little better.
Man, you are like trying to take over my shop.
What? Trying to do what?
Trying to take over my shop.
Your shop?
My shot.
What do you mean your shot?
My shot. Trying to be the star of the show, star of the video.
Am I? Oh, sorry.
You're fine. Once everything dried, I selected a rounding bit and rounded all the edges except the top surface. Kind of a personal preference, but I just prefer a flat top so things aren't as likely to wobble over the edge. At this point, it was all down to me finishing the project. What'd you tell me?
You're doing all the sanding, by the way.
Okay. First step was sanding, which I forgot just how much I disliked. For sure, got a good arm workout in that day. After cleaning off any sawdust, I stained the nightstand. This upped the cost of my project since I could have opted for stain left over from something else. But I wasn't sure if we had enough left in the color I wanted, and I figured I would just start fresh. Plus, the leftover stain means I now have an excuse to make another project. The stain cost me $9.52. Now, staining is a process that I do enjoy, and I applied it with a rag according to the directions on the can. At this point, I loved how it was looking. All that was left was sealing it. I opted for a water-based spar urethane and made sure to clean the surface before applying. The spar urethane cost me $31.88 because the smallest size my store sold was 1 quart. A half pint would have been plenty, but I couldn't find somewhere that sold the water-based version in an 8-ounce size. This is a step where I could have used better technique. I was itching to get this project done and didn't want to wait on picking up paintbrushes, so I used a sponge to apply the first coat. It worked out fine until the sponge began to disintegrate. Do not recommend this. For the remaining 2 coats, I found a brush, and that works so much better. Between coats, I sanded it down per the instructions, using a finer grit with each sanding. Each time after sanding, I wiped it clean with a microfiber cloth. I was the most careful with my last coat since I wasn't planning to sand after the final application. That coat turned out great, except for a couple spots on the top where my brush must not have been wet enough. So the top got a 4th coat, and then I just had to let it dry one last time. And this is the final look, and I am so thrilled with how it turned out. I think it's beautiful, and it functions great for my needs. The one part I don't love is where the glue is visible, but all in all, I think it turned out great for a DIY piece of furniture made by an amateur. I like it better than anything I could have bought at the store. In total, I spent $76.34 on this nightstand, with nearly half of that going towards the sealer. By using stain left over from another project and a different sealer, the price can be dropped much lower. Personally, I was happy to spend the money since I was able to customize the nightstand to fit my needs, and I ended up with a piece of furniture that will last me for life.